again to discuss things.
You guys ready to go and get into this?
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
The real Manos.
Every time.
I didn't say it all the way this time, though, so it's all good. The champion of bad timing.
And the real Manos, the maestro of mistakes.
Oh, that's a good one. I realized this happened kind of coincidentally as the channel has, as my channel has been blowing up because I've been leeching views and subscribers off of Alfie's blow up. I realized...
That's a good idea. Hey, can I leech off your channel too? That's a good idea.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So the channel's been blowing up, and right around the time that happened, you know, my own life stuff just kind of got, like, really, really busy. And so Geeky Gentlemen used to be 3 episodes a week, and I liked doing that, but I don't have the time for it anymore, unfortunately. And so it used to be, you know, our main discussion or review episode, and then a character discussion, fan film reviews. And as fun as character discussions can be, they're not the thing I'm most passionate about that we do on this channel. And I really wanted to get back into the fan project reviews. But also part of the reason that those got dropped kind of first is just not having the best kind of workable schedule between myself and Manos, who's doing those with me. So I do want to bring him back, and we are bringing him back, and this is going to be like the last regularly scheduled quote-unquote fan project review Manos is on. He can certainly come back anytime that he wants, if we can make it work. But Alfie's going to be stepping in and taking over the fan project reviews, and we're going to be dropping character discussions. So I'm excited to be back doing this again, because I really, really like these. And I feel like one thing that's always missing from the fan community is feedback from within it. A lot of people watch fan films, they get like millions of views, no one talks about them. And so I'm excited to bring that back into the fold. So, yeah. Cool.
Very good.
So we are in Geeky Gentleman Comedy Month. It's the month of April, so it's the month we make jokes and gags. And Manos is the selector of today's fan film as we pass the torch off. Manos, what comedy-based fan film are we talking about today?
I could not think of anything else I wanted to do for my Swan Song episode. Is one I wanted to do last year, but we didn't have time to fit it in. And it's one I remember since childhood. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's Hardware Wars from 1978. And it's most likely the first Star Wars fan film and a kind of important fan film as far as that's concerned.
Mm-hmm. No, I absolutely agree. It is crazy because Star Wars is 78 too, right? Or is it 75?
No, 77.
77. Okay. So like a year later, and Star Wars is of course a phenomenon at its time. It's not like it was a sleeper hit or anything. A year later, it gets a fan film, which was pretty much unheard of before that. I'd like to think. I don't necessarily have the knowledge to back that up, but it is something. I mean, I think this might be the oldest fan film we've talked about.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting point. I've literally never heard of it before too, which is crazy.
You've never heard of this before?
No.
Oh my god. Okay, I assumed, first when I was going to suggest it, I definitely checked your site to see if you talked about this with Roscoe before.
Mm-hmm.
To my surprise, you didn't. I didn't know you weren't aware of it. That's really awesome. I assumed you had seen it at least once.
No, never.
Okay, yeah, it came out a year after Star Wars. It's some kind of like off the wall comedy group. They even got like known voiceover actor Paul Frees to do the announcing. They must have seen this film like a million times at the theater because they couldn't exactly download it like a few months later. On Disney Plus or anything like that. You know, they had to like watch it because it's pretty accurate as far as the main plot points and specific jokes. I remember seeing this before Star Wars, actually, because it was Star Wars was in theaters forever, and I saw Star Wars technically in like 1980 when it hit HBO. And HBO was already playing this. HBO used to show short films, which was great. Like in between, you know, commercials and films and TV shows and bumpers, they used to show short movies. And this was one of them. They showed this one a lot. And I had already become aware of Star Wars enough as a kid through osmosis. And it's really funny. And it also, oddly enough, predicts the use of Muppets, because they have a Chewbacca character in here that's basically Cookie Monster, the Wookiee monster. And, like, you know, this is before the Henson people joined up with Lucas. Also, I want to mention, like, if you go back and watch Last Jedi, there is a reference in Last Jedi to this film.
I was thinking of that. The fucking steaming iron that comes down and it looks like a spaceship at first and then it just like fucking steams Kylo Ren's shirt or whatever, right?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes,
I didn't realize that was like a direct reference. Oh my god. I thought that was just a funny coincidence.
It works as a joke if you don't know Hardware Wars, but oh my god. Like, that was the first thing. As soon as they pulled that reveal that it was an iron, it was like, oh my god, they're pulling Hardware Wars jokes in this movie. In actual Star Wars. So yeah, that's where that joke came from.
Oh wow.
Alfie,
am I alone in this? Have you ever heard of this before?
No, this is the first time I've ever heard of it as well. And after getting the link and watching it, I did some research for myself and found about the Last Jedi thing. Found out that George Lucas has said this is his favorite Star Wars spin-off / parody
Really?
ever. And it made more money if you're talking of like just pure ratio wise than Star Wars. This had an $8,000 budget and it made $1 million.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, because fans just never forgot about it, and I think you can find it on DVD or something like that because it's technically a parody. And these guys also did a pretty funny Close Encounters film, but this one is like better known and it's frankly funnier. So I don't know. I hadn't seen this for a few years. And it was kind of nice. I was kind of laughing along. I wasn't sure if it was mostly out of nostalgia because, you know, this is part of my Star Wars childhood. But I don't know. I felt it still held up to me, and I had a lot of fun with it.
I thought it was very good. Like it's impressive as hell for the time, but also like I guess it's not like timeless because it is in a way. It's timeless because I feel like this is still the same kinds of jokes a lot of fans are making about Star Wars stuff. Like, they've been doing this forever, and so I don't know, I had I enjoyed it, I did laugh at it. There was, like, a weird disconnect, because I had to keep reminding myself that, like, no, this isn't played out. This was, like, super fresh of a hot take for the time.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just, there's so many jokes in here, and it's just kind of that universal, like, experience of, well, how many jokes can you possibly make about Star Wars when you've got, like, you know, an hour-long Family Guy specials, and fucking Robot Chicken's done, like, 7 Star Wars special episodes and stuff by this point in time. There's been countless fan films that they've all made these same jokes, but it is really funny to see it all kind of come together. I don't know. It was weird experience thinking of it in that kind of way, you know?
Yes, because like there was this idea, like the idea of using like household appliances as like the spaceships and the guns and the robots and all that kind of stuff, like Planet Basketball. That's what, that does feel like kind of an annoying joke because a lot of like models and effects that they used in the original Star Wars were kit bashed, and they used a lot of like just stuff to look like new stuff. And I remember Roger Corman talking about how George Lucas and Spielberg were doing the things they were doing, but with studio budgets. And yeah, I mean, it is kind of that joke. Like, we have a vacuum cleaner as R2-D2, and it works really well as R2-D2.
No, absolutely it does. It's crazy to see just how effective a lot of that is, because if you played it straight, if you framed it better, if you didn't like show the string, yeah, you probably could have taken like the bottom off of an iron or something, or like built a ship around an iron as the base or something like that, and made it work in that Star Wars kind of way. It's just that they instead of trying to dress it up, they just kind of shoot it straight, and that's what makes it funny. Same with the egg beater and the fucking waffle iron and stuff. But there's a charm to that. It's funnier because of that, and I don't know. It's good stuff. Like I always talk about this. Anytime I'm over at my mom's and I have to go through the kitchen or something, I always go, I need the UFO. She goes, the what? The UFO, the like tin thingy that's all like woo. She goes, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, oh, what's the word for it? The colander. I need the colander. Because goddamn, when you put like the colander, wrap it all up, or steamer or whatever it is, it looks like a goddamn UFO. And so there's a charm to that in like a very childlike way that's like just super fun and enjoyable, man. So it's super like just wholesome to see it done and like completely for laughs,
And that's something I used to do as a kid, is when I didn't have toys that resembled stuff in the stuff I watched, I would use household items to replace like certain like weapons or spaceships or like, sets. It's like, oh, this like staple gun looks like that. Use that, and all that kind of junk. That's the fun part about being a kid.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So it's just, I don't know, the imagination on display and stuff like that is always just very, very enjoyable. So I got a real kick out of seeing all that stuff come together. Alfie, you've been too quiet. I demand you to take us somewhere.
Well, something that always made me laugh when I watched this was just the characterization of Luke Skywalker, and like I think that's something that actually is still very fresh, because a lot of people when they do Star Wars parodies like Robot Chicken or Family Guy, etc., they kind of make Luke the straight man. They'll play up Han Solo, they'll play up Princess Leia, they'll play up everyone, and then Luke play on up like everyone kind of gets to have the bits, and then Luke kind of takes the purpose he has in the original Star Wars, where he's just meant to be the audience surrogate. He's just meant to be the guy everyone bounces the jokes off. I thought it was really, really neat for them to really emphasize just how weird Mark Hamill is in A New Hope.
I want to go to Sashi Station and get some power converter.
Golly! Wow! Gee willikers! Like, I love that shit. That cracked me up. I was dying. Because it just kept going, and it's just throughout the whole thing. So I really appreciated that, and I think that shows like a level of the just making this and being able to get it across and knowing what's funny and what's not, but still being able to recreate shots with whatever hardware utensils you have currently around the house. Like, these guys are really, really smart, but that also showed to me like the smartness in just the writing of being able to show every single bit of the character, right? Like, even ones that are kind of like what would stand out most to them. So this is pre-Empire, pre-Jedi, and in to that audience, Luke is probably the most comical character because they have no idea he's gonna be the guy who turns up from Return of the Jedi is fucking badass. They think Luke, Luke, ugh, like they haven't got to that point, and I think that's so unique to see a Star Wars fan project that comes out before Empire changes the franchise forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? It's so interesting how it all comes together, and I don't know, that kind of goes to kind of the thing I know Lucas dealt with, which is he was surprised that Han Solo became as popular as he did. He expected all the toys and the attention to be on Luke, and then to have it all go to Han Solo, he was like, oh, well, guess I could work with this, I suppose, if I just
Let's see. There's it. What you're saying is 100% correct, because it doesn't just rely on the joke of the supplies being special effects. Like the Luke stuff is right on target. I enjoy. I already mentioned the Wookiee monster and the hand salad, and oh my God, the joke with Augie Ben Doggy, which, by the way, that name, I'm not kidding, has made me chuckle for 40 years. I'm literally still laughing when I think of that name. The joke where the Planet Basketball blows up and Augie Ben Doggy suffers, and he goes, "What happened? Are you feeling the deaths of millions?" Like, no, just a headache. I'm fine.
Yep. Stuff's good, man. It's just good writing. It's really fun, enjoyable writing to kind of work with, because I don't know, that's a joke that isn't as funny nowadays. I mean, it's still pretty good, but it isn't as funny now because I'm so used to people quoting lines from Star Wars. But as quotable a movie as Star Wars is, I don't know if it's necessarily as quotable on your first watch through. I always thought of Star Wars as so quotable because everyone in the world has seen it so many times now, if not directly, vicariously through other things. And to just see something that came out directly after it, and they're pulling the same quotes that everyone else does. I've got a bad feeling about this. I was like, holy shit, that is one of the most quotable lines in the world then, I guess. I don't know.
Nothing feels misquoted.
Yeah, I'm so surprised that it was that quotable right away, to me, I always thought it was just quotable in retrospect.
And it just had that immediate kind of explosion with the culture. And this is the late 70s where misquoting movie lines went on generations. People would misquote lines from Casablanca, and there's a James Cagney film that people would always misquote, and the Tarzan movies constantly. And then you go back and look, oh wait, they don't say that, because there's no Twitter, there's no social media. These guys immediately got all these quotes, all these jokes based on the quotes right, and it's kind of impressive knowing how early this film is.
Oh, absolutely.
The film's probably still in the theaters when they were shooting this.
Yeah, because of the way that films were released back then. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. It's crazy. It's crazy. This is it's like a classic in a way. I feel weird talking about it,
And it's the granddaddy, it's the ancestor to all the fan films you watch today, either comedic or straight.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I want to ask, because I think this is very emblematic of how Star Wars changed things. Because this came out so fast and it came out so good, and of such a unique quality compared to things. This is the most profitable short film of all time, which is fucking crazy. But what is it about Star Wars that makes this possible? What do you think it is about Star Wars as a franchise that makes fans want to make fan films about it? What makes it so? Because on the surface level, right, it sounds like, why would the sci-fi thing be the thing that gets the most fan films? That seems like it'd be much harder to do. Like, is there any? Do you have any hypothesis about why it's this?
Why it's Star Wars? You know, I've been of the opinion for a long time, and it always kind of shocks me whenever I meet people, and I still do in day-to-day life, that have been like, "Oh no, I don't watch Star Wars. I've never watched them," and I'm like, I feel like it's such a universal experience that I'm always surprised when I meet someone that has never watched Star Wars. Like they've maybe seen clips or whatever, but they've never actually watched the movies, and I'm like, it's such like a universal like rite of passage thing. I'm surprised that some people haven't, but I think because it is such a universal rite of passage kind of series of films, is why you've got so much of a thing. Like, yeah, there might be the limitation of it's a sci-fi thing, it's harder to do, but because of how universal an experience it is, how much it speaks to everybody, or at least everybody that I haven't met that's weird and hasn't watched Star Wars. I think because Star Wars just has such a wide range, such a universal appeal, that it's really easy. Like there are tons of Star Trek fan films, but like I feel to make a Star Trek fan film requires a level of nerdiness that a Star Wars fan film doesn't. Like I think you can not even really be much of a Star Wars fan and still want to and get the appeal of making a Star Wars fan film, as opposed to like you have to be a fan of Star Trek if you're gonna want to make a Star Trek fan film, you know? Like, yeah. I think you can just like Star Wars, think it's okay, and then one day have the idea for a Star Wars fan film.
Yeah, you know, I can only answer this so much because I do remember a life before Star Wars. But not much. I was like 6, so I don't know. I have maybe a couple of years. I can remember watching stuff that before Star Wars, and sci-fi was essentially Star Trek. Planet of the Apes, Logan's Run, those were the main ones. And the smart, sophisticated dorks were big fans of 2001. Mm-hmm. And I've heard this case before, and it does sound pretty legit, that Star Wars was able to take advantage of those things, as well as the nostalgia of the kids of the first couple of generations of geek culture growing up and looking back. And Lucas was able, and his team, let's be real, it wasn't all Lucas, but to take advantage of all that and kind of turn it back into something that felt new at the same time, but still felt familiar, and it hit us at kind of the right time because we were kind of in a weird place culturally. We had a kind of like a feeling of defeat after a few rough years. Mm-hmm. And to see something like that, I think really kind of launched people. And the fact that, these were things like, hey, we always wanted to see the stuff with a good budget. You can even compare it to what the MCU does right now, because the MCU does things I've always wanted to see, but I've only had to rely on TV budgets and studios that don't want to go too far in comic book looks and stuff like that. And the MCU has been doing that, with a big budget and going all full color with their characters. And you can make an argument that that's not too far different than what Star Wars did and how it, really grounded itself with causing all that excitement. And, this film and how specific it is on its jokes, I think it's a good, example of that.
I'd agree with that. I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, definitely. It's just something that always struck me. And just seeing this, it kind of hit me with the oh no, this was always a thing. This was right out the gate, the cultural mindset changed. Everyone looks to talk about how Star Wars changed blockbusters and how films are made, and if you watch a film after, you can literally see how films are written differently before and after Empire, in just how characters interact with each other. That is a point, which is fucking weird. But everyone kind of talks about from those things. But like, it's the fan circle as well. Like, fandom changed after Star Wars. How fans interact with media, the possibility of what fans can do with media, and part of me also think it does kind of come down to, especially when you see filmmakers who used to do fan films that have now started doing the main films, like Rian Johnson, even J.J. Abrams, when they talk about like what made them attached to Star Wars. The original Star Wars, still, as visually impressive it still does kind of have that. It's sci-fi, but it's sturdy sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
It's sci-fi that is kind of falling apart. It's not clean, pristine hallways until you get to the Empire. Like, once you're on Tatooine, a lot of that stuff is just kind of like, yeah, it's out there, but it's played in a very, this is just what the future looks like. This is, the life's still pretty meh. It's just now there's droids and they're all dirty and everything as well. So I do think it kind of lends itself to imperfections, which normally will get you like, oh yeah, it's a fan film, they're doing this. And obviously this is a big extreme of that, where it's played for comedy. But even then, it works for comedy just as well, because if you watch some Star Wars, you can kind of see the seams. Mm-hmm. So I think that might be part of it as well. The fact that Star Wars has a very, you can make it at home for 5 cents kind of quality. That reminds me of a similar thing that happened over here with Doctor Who. Is Doctor Who has so many fan films and it's saving, because most Tom Baker Doctor Who episodes look like this Star Wars fan film.
Mm-hmm. Which Doctor was it that called the Daleks tennis ball machines? Because like I know one of the Doctor was it 5? Colin Baker, if I'm remembering the name correctly.
That's it.
Okay, one of them was just fucking hated the Daleks and just ragged on him for looking too cheap, and he didn't like being on screen with him. I remember hearing at one point, and I was just like, God, that's funny. And then you got David Tennant. It's like, oh, can I be in an episode with like the really cheap crap like K9? I love K9 so much.
Just shows you the difference.
Right. Oh. No, it's a really good point. There's like, I like to think Star Wars is like this perfect like cultural epicenter of just like, it's not any one thing. It's all of these like very particular things of a zeitgeist meeting all at one time. And there really couldn't be anything else like it. Because like love or hate the prequels, they don't have the same effect. Love or hate the sequels, they still don't garner the same kind of, the same kind of impact. And I just think that nothing really could. I don't think there's anything else quite like Star Wars. And this is a great example of that. It's such just an impactful film in so many ways. And this fan film just kind of goes to show, because the most profitable short film of all time is a Star Wars fan film. That's adorable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason why prequels and sequels, again, removing any just like opinions on like how the quality of things, just conceptually, the reason why they can't is because the prequels are George Lucas being like every artist in the world and wanting to do what he wanted to do originally, and like I can do what I can, everything I had in my mind that I couldn't achieve because I had a shoestring where I had to improvise, I can just do now. So it's almost like it's a reaction to Star Wars. It's a reaction to his own stuff as a creator of Star Wars. The prequels wouldn't, obviously, but like if he did 1, 2, and 3 originally, if he made Star Wars in order, they wouldn't look anything like the prequels. They wouldn't be anything like the prequels. They are very much post-Star Wars movies. And the sequels are very much the same, because they are writers and directors reacting to and commentating on the impact of Star Wars. They're not making a new thing. I'm very curious to see if going forward that's always going to be the case, if this was just a strike in the pan cultural event, or there will be, once we've done the main saga, 10, 20, 30 years from now, if there's going to be another using this franchise, but kind of just like the same kind of, there's a point where this has changed things, this has changed things. Because this isn't the only film that does that. Like, the first Superman movie kind of has that, and it's kind of the same time period. So I, but we
70s were
don't
one of the
really...
best decades for film, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then you got like the Dark Knight had that as well, and so did the Avengers. So it's not like this is a once in a lifetime, once in a world thing. That it does happen quite frequently. I'm just curious if Star Wars will ever have that again, or if Star Wars is almost too big now. Do it from there. It has to be something completely separate to get to that thing, if that makes any sense.
No, I think that does. It's a really weird world that Star Wars kind of created, and it just hit at just the right time and on just so many particular things that it couldn't help but blow up. It's absolutely crazy to think about Star Wars, and then there's so much about just like luck in the movie, but I don't really want to talk too much about the movie itself. And I want to make sure if we can, if there's anything left to say about the fan film, we say it now before we get close to wrapping up here.
I'm not sure if I have anything else except for specific jokes. Like,
Yeah,
I've seen this a bunch
to
of...
avoid that for like a comedy review, because then you're just spoiling it, right?
I don't know, but there's like one joke I noticed. I never noticed this before. I've seen it a few times, where the parodies of R2-D2 and C-3PO are walking through the desert, and in the background there's a woman with a beach towel picking up and getting ready to go after sunbathing. That made me laugh this time.
Yeah, I noticed that too. That was pretty good. Now the question is, was that a gag that they planned, or did that just happen?
Either is possible.
Right.
The Force works in mysterious ways. You have much to learn.
All right, let's all go for like one gag, and then we'll go on to ratings. The one that just floored me was Wookiee monster trying to eat Princess Leia's buns. That was some special shit right there. Because like you just see him in like even in the thumbnail of the video that we watched for this. It's got Wookiee Monster right there. I'm like, oh my god, it's Chewbacca, but it's Cookie Monster. That's adorable. And so the whole time you're just waiting for him to do anything, and it's a crime that he doesn't have any lines in the thing, but then it makes it all up for it in that moment where it just goes right after Princess Leia's buns. It's adorable. How about you, Alfie? What was the gag that really sent you?
Apart from the Luke one I mentioned, I think it would have to be it's almost like it's not created to this work itself just because of like prior experience of the thing, but I was just like, oh my god, this did the fucking overdone Bane joke before anyone else. So that was funny. Just seeing,
30
oh yeah,
years earlier.
that was never original.
I just like the idea that people were complaining about not being able to understand James Earl Jones. Like, I guess that's just if Star Wars was released today, like, one, you'd have, oh yeah, so we're supposed to believe that this white guy's father is just a black man. That doesn't make any sense. But then you'd also have all the people like, I can't understand a single word that Darth Vader says. It doesn't make any sense. They should have just gone without the voiceover.
And then they would just have to say David Prowse.
They'd be complaining about Princess Leia having too many clothes. It's an insult to men. You know, that kind of stuff.
That shit. Oh, Han Solo is totally cucked by Princess Leia. It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that's right. They would be mad about that.
Yeah, they totally would. All right. I like that never mind. I don't want to get into just this joke was good. This joke was good. All right. So let's go ahead and go into ratings then. I'll go first. I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5 Stormtrooper trash cans. How about you, Alfie?
For me, This was again a really fun thing to watch. I always love getting to see kind of classic fan films. They always have such like a warm, cozy feeling to them. It's just like a joy from the material and really going out there. So this one was like a really fun watch. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5 Wookiee monsters.
And yeah, this is really fun to share with you guys. I wasn't sure if you'd seen it or heard of it before. I'm pleased to hear that you hadn't and you enjoyed it, so that was great. It's a big part of my childhood. I loved it a lot. It still holds up and still very funny. So I'll definitely give this one 5 out of 5 basketball planets. And may the farce always be with you.
Nice. All right. Alfie, you're going to be picking the next fan project. Doesn't have to be a film. Can be other things. Fan project review. It does have to be comedy based though. Mm-hmm. So, do you have anything off the top of your head, or do you need some
Not
time?
off the top of my head.
Okay.
It will take. Actually, I mean. Okay. It's hard to say if it counts. It really is hard. There's like, because it wasn't officially done by them, but it is something that was aired on TV.
Okay.
And it is comedy based, and it was written while this writer was a fan who would then go on to be part of the show. And that is the Doctor Who Curse of Fatal Death.
Okay.
Which was a comedy children's in need special that happened while the show was off air.
I mean, I think that's fair enough. It was written by fans. It wasn't like officially part of Doctor Who. Was it produced by BBC or was it like independently produced? I guess is the question. You know what, let's not get into a whole thing with it right now. Do research off camera. So we might be back with that next time. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
I'm the champion of the oppressed.
And I'm the realist.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.